Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to For Strategy Gaming Protoss strategy for you today. Today we will be taking a look at the Forge Fast Expand Protoss build. Very standard, especially against a Zerg opponent. And in fact, let me just show you specifically. Yes, it is a Zerg opponent. This is a PvZ strategy. So go right back into the Protoss player vision. So yes, we're going to be looking at kind of a standard Forge Fast Expand. However, with this, we're actually going to be looking at taking a transition into some heavy blink stalkers with a level 2 weapons upgrade as well. So that will be the entire kind of game plan. That's the thought process and theory behind this. And we will of course take a look at specifically what our Protoss player 1 Gator does in this game and why he responds the way he does and everything that he does. So we can see right now scouting out the main base looks fairly standard. Does of course want to check that gas timing and of course have a clear indication as to when and if an expansion does come down. So he will of course after that initial scout be dancing around here at the expansion just to see. And obviously by bringing down 2 workers, that's a pretty clear indication that the Zerg opponent here did intend on expanding. So dropping the Pylon can be actually a good way to delay and deny that, at least set it back momentarily. Back here in the main, we can see right now 1 Gator has already come up with his expansion, and we will, in fact, let's go in, we can just go in the build order right now, I suppose. So the opening will be kind of standard for a Forge Fast Expand. Something you do need to realize about this build in general is that the Forge Fast Expand really only works most effectively on larger maps. With a large map, with a larger rush distance, you can quite easily pull this off. Specifically on this map, Shakur's Plateau seems very effective. In fact, in almost every PvZ on this map, I almost always see the Zerg player go for a Forge Fast Expand just because it is so very strong. So let us take a look at that build order. The starting is going to be with a 9 Pylon, 14 Forge, 17 Nexus, 17 Supply. After the Nexus gets dropped, that's when the Gateway comes down. Then the Cannon right after that, your first Photon Cannon. 19 Supply is your first Assimilator, and then a Cybernetics Core right after that. Now, at this point, once you do have the one Assimilator up. Actually, 17 Supply is the first Assimilator, 19 Supply getting your second Assimilator, and then your Cybernetics Core. Now, as soon as the Cybernetics Core finishes and you have that extra Vespian, you will want to, and let me pause this momentarily, you will want to start your Warp Gate research. Also, something else very important, the first thing you want to come out with here, as soon as your Gateway is up and your Cybernetics Core finished, start coming out with the Sentry. That's going to help quite a bit in early game defense. Follow that Sentry up with a Stalker, and then another Sentry. You can see that's exactly what 1 Gator is doing here. Fearing the possibility of an early push, coming out with this additional cannon, you can see already sitting with 3. And in fact, a lot of times you see most Protoss players sit with about 2 to 3. The fact that he's coming out with the 4th is just an indication that he's kind of worried about early pressure, so try to prevent or save himself from dying to that. But you can see right now, in this particular scenario, the Roaches will want to get up close and target fire your buildings to let Zerglings stream in. So the idea behind that Sentry first before anything else out of that Gateway is that you'll allow him to accumulate some energy, and that will provide you with enough energy for a force field or 2 when that first push comes, and you just want to keep the Roaches away from your buildings. You want to try to keep them out of the range. We'll pick it up right here. You can see right now, seeing that the threat wasn't that great, we actually saw 1 Gator go ahead and cancel the additional cannon that he did intend on coming out with, and he will be chrono boosting out that second Sentry just in case that pressure does continue to happen. So this is our setup. Here we are, the level 1 upgrade starting. Now from this point, all you are doing is coming out with your additional gateways, continuing to probe up. You want to work on your economy. You of course want nice saturation. You get the level 1 upgrade for your weapons. You get the level 2 upgrade. You get about 6 to 7 gateways total. We can see dropping 2 additional gateways. Also coming out with a Robo as well. That will allow you to get out that observer, do some scouting, check for expansions, but also once your push does come, we will be pushing with Blink Stalkers, and we will be pushing with 2 weapons level upgrades. Once your push does come, a big concern is infestors with fungal growth, and just in case they have burrow, being able to detect them with that observer will help a lot. Now the rest of the build, again, we had that 19 Cybernetics Core, then at that point, 2 additional gateways got dropped at 42 supply, then at 45 supply, that's when the Twilight Council came out, then after that, 2 more gateways and a robotics, and then you just, again, continue to work on your economy, get up these sentries slowly. You want to pretty much start with exclusively sentries. We saw 1 Stalker in the mix as well, although I'm not sure, there he is, spotting, going up patrol, spotting for possible overlords or overseer scouts, but you just continue up that sentry count early game, sitting at about 6, maybe even 7 sentries, and then here comes the push, and I will pause right now. We can see the level 2 upgrade about halfway finished right now. He's killing off the Cybernetics Core. He has got a second Cybernetics Core building, obviously. Why is he killing off his Cybernetics core? Just because he needs to leave his base. And you do that kind of full secure wall off for the early game with the Forge Fast Expand, and then you typically kill off a building when you push out. If we were not going for level 2 upgrades, we could even consider killing off the Forge, but since we want to get that level 2 upgrade up, killing off the Cybernetics core and then just rebuilding it in your main. And then at this point also coming out with an additional 2 gateways, and actually he does, you can see trying to come out the second robotics, but that actually proved to be kind of a mistake. We're going to actually see him cancel that, I think at the last moment here. Yes, he does. There we go. So canceled it at the very last moment. Just will be sticking with these gateways for heavy blink stalker. You can see that blink research coming through. There is that additional Cybernetics core. Here are of course our additional gateways, and then here comes the push. So at this point, level 2 upgrade just about finished. Once that's almost done, that is when you will be starting that push, and we will of course want to keep a close eye on this. Now we can see right now the Observer Scout moving into that natural, seeing pretty standard stuff. Roach Hydra and Infestor is what we will be seeing from that Zerg opponent VT Gix in this game. And that is fairly standard. So use your observer to scout out that army. You want to check the size, the composition, and its placement, where it is in relation to your army, so you can know when you should and shouldn't engage. One big thing to of course realize here, you are pretty sentry heavy, sitting with about 6 to 7 from that early game production, and if they're sitting at full energy, which they should be, you'll just want to try to make sure that you try, if at all possible, to engage in any kind of choke points that's going to make your force fields much more effective. And then Blink Stalker Micro is another huge aspect of this push. So he has proxy pylons to continue up reinforcements. Here comes an engagement, dropping down this force fields, also dropping down guardian shields, and the first real big target of yours in a push like this will be expansions. Killing off expansions is absolutely huge. If you can knock your Zerg opponent back down to 2 bases, you will be in a very strong spot. Now, what are we concerned about here? Well, a counterattack is obviously cause for concern. You have the option of warping in sentries in your main to try to delay that. The other thing, too, though, is if he does invest in the counterattack, that just provides you access to go straight into his natural and his main. So you can see the third has been taken out pretty easily with all those sentries for the force field and those blink stalkers. You can see right now the Zerg opponent was actually prompting up for a counterattack, but decided to pull back. And again, probably one of the main reasons he decided to pull back was that concern about just having these stalkers and sentries move right into his natural. Fungal growth, as mentioned, a big problem, so having that observer chill around just in case those infestors do have burrow, as these do here, you'll still be able to snipe them down. Blinking back stalkers with low health, trying to create a force field wall if at all possible. Once those force fields are gone and once you lose those sentries, you will be relying exclusively on the blink stalkers, so you will of course want to churn those out. But the good thing is that these blink stalkers will do very well with some good micro. Again, all you need to do is just make sure you're blinking back the stalkers that are at low health. This helps quite a bit, and then as you continue to push, these low health stalkers will recharge their shields, and they'll be basically much more useful than they would have if they were dead. And just keep up the constant aggression with the level 2 upgrades, and with the timing of this push, you'll likely have a big advantage. You can see right now the Zerg player still just sitting on the level 1 range upgrades, the level 2 finally coming on through, but here comes the continued push from one gator. Obviously, as you can see here, no thinking, no mentality in terms of expansions. He is just trying to continue up this push and be as aggressive as possible, simply because you want to do as much damage early in the game as possible. Although I guess we could call this mid-game more likely. It seems like a more reasonable statement for it, but still, this heavy stalker push with those level 2 upgrades and the blink can be so incredibly strong, as you saw, especially with those force fields. And the big thing, the big reason why VT Gix did actually go ahead and just call GG was simply because dealing with those force fields and those blink stalkers is quite a bit, even with fungal growth, and losing that expansion was just absolutely devastating. It put him really so far behind. Obviously, as we know, as a Protoss player, if you can keep your Zerg opponent on the same number of bases as you are actually in a really good position. So let us go ahead and talk about that build order once more. The build order for this Forge Fast Expand into the Blink Stalker build is going to be starting off with a 9 Pylon, then going 14 Forge, 17 Nexus, 17 Gateway, and then also right after that Gateway you drop your first cannon. Then at 17 Supply, right after that cannon, you go Assimilator, 19 Supply, second Assimilator, 19 Supply. Once this Gateway finishes, you drop your Cybernetics Core. Obviously, as soon as the Cybernetics Core is up, start your Warp Gate research, come out with your first Sentry, and then follow that up with the Stalker and additional sentries after that point. And then once this is all going down, you do your level 1 upgrades, you work your way up into level 2 as well, but you also get your additional gateways, get out 1 robo, and actually we'll be getting a Twilight Council at 45 supply as well. So that about does it, guys. Hopefully you have enjoyed this. As always, make sure that you're scouting your opponent and you're deciding what you're going in terms of builds and how you're adapting everything based on what they're doing. If we saw super heavy, strong aggression, obviously at that point, one Gator would have had to invest a little bit more into that early game defense and wouldn't have been able to tech up quite as hard, maybe even possibly wouldn't have been able to get that level 2 upgrade. But there you go, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you have enjoyed it. As always, guys, if you like the content, please subscribe to the channel. Keep watching and keep owning.